Hey there, Megan from Hip Stitch Academy here. I hear this a lot. You really want to teach sewing classes, but you're totally scared to get started. And believe me when I say I have been there. Does this sound like you? You know you're ready to teach your first sewing class. You really want to teach your first sewing class, but there's just some reason you can't get over that last scary hurdle to actually schedule that first class. Maybe because then it will be real. And real can sometimes be really scary. There are so many what ifs. What if nobody shows up? What if I mess up? What if people that are taking the class have a terrible time and they never want to come back to my studio? And so on and so forth. Our brains can easily make up a ton of other crazy scenarios if we let it. But let me ask you this. Are your what ifs holding you hostage from actually getting started teaching sewing classes? If yes, don't worry. It's so relatable. I'm going to share with you two really simple things I do to overcome the same exact fear. It's also what I've suggested to other people who are in the same spot as you are, ready to get started teaching sewing classes. And it's been the extra nudge they need to get over that fear and just teach that first class already. Pretty simple stuff. Number one, make your first class free. And number two, make your first class invite only. Okay. Get a small group of people together who already love you and support you. You're going to invite all these people to a special free first class. When these people are your students for your very first sewing class, this is going to bring your nerves way down. And I'll bet that you know at least 30 people who would jump at the opportunity to take a free sewing class from you. However, side note, please do not teach 30 people in your first class. It's way too many. Okay, do you know what's going to happen when these supportive people who take your class finish it? Yes, they are going to turn around and tell everyone they know how fantastic you and your sewing classes are. So, when you're ready for this, here's my Teach Your First Sewing Class checklist. So listen carefully. 1, keep the class small. As I mentioned, just because you know 30 people who want to learn how to sew does not mean you should teach them all in the first class. 30 is way too many. 20 is way too many. Even 10 is probably way too many, especially if this is your first time teaching. I'd say keep it around 4 to 6 students. 2, take a ton of photos. If you can, ask someone to come take photos of the class while you're teaching so you don't even have to think about it. The first experience of you teaching a sewing class is gold. Make sure you document the entire thing and then use the photos in all your future promotion. 3, allow your students to complete a project. It doesn't matter what, but giving your students the satisfaction of completing a very first sewing project, they'll see pretty quickly why sewing is so fantastic. And 4, you don't need a studio to teach your first sewing class. If you don't already have your own studio to teach sewing classes, that is totally okay. There are tons of other places to hold these classes, including schools, public libraries, church basements, home sewing studios, fabric shops, coffee shops, you name it. Get creative and find an adorable place to have your first class. And just in case you're not sure what sewing project to teach in your first class, don't worry, we've got you covered. We just added a brand new curriculum to the collection. Our Hip Stitch Academy Sewing Machine Basics is a 2-hour learn to sew sewing class, and it teaches you how to thread and operate the sewing machine. Really basic stuff. The sewing class effectively teaches adult students age 16 and up in a fun, informative, proven way. We've actually been personally teaching this class at our studio 3 to 4 times a month for the last 10 years, a very long time. And the link in the notes will send you right to where that curriculum is. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and teach your first sewing class.